I want to record the deepest appreciation of the Cabinet of St. Kitts and Nevis, and indeed all our citizens and residents for the excellent and human service rendered by all these our honorees today. And for me personally to say thank you, because so many of them have had long personal interaction with and could account for their long and meritorious service in the areas of endeavors which have been identified today. So we come this morning, an invitation of His Excellency, our Governor General, and as a duty, a pleasurable duty, to record our deepest appreciation to you, our honorees, and to say that your contribution will always be lovingly remembered and immortalized for the selfless nature with which you gave, even in those times then when there were limits to governmental, state, and private sector resources. You taught us a very valuable life lesson, that always we must do the very best we can with what we have today. Not what we will have tomorrow, what we have today. Always there must be a commitment to do the very best that we can do. And as we look at the honorees today, you, as it were, symbolizes the essence of that message and that lifelong lesson. Self-sacrifice, dedication, love for what you're doing. Every one of you demonstrated that. And for that we come to say thank you for being an exemplar. I want also, in saying thanks, to say thank you to the National Honors Awards Committee, who had the difficult task of going through a number of recommendations for awards and bringing it down to a realistic number of honorees. It was a difficult assignment, I am advised. Today I want to commend the efforts of Mr. Ken Martin, who I'm told would have chaired and presided over the committee. Let's give Mr. Martin a round of applause. He was ably assisted by Mr. Stanley Franks, who was the Governor General's representative. Let's give Stanley Franks a special round of applause. Stanley has a particular admirable quality that for any aspect in which we are engaged, we could always call on Stanley, whether it is to do with trade unionism, sports, agriculture. Stanley, in a real sense, is ubiquitous. Everywhere there is a Stanley Franks who will come and give of his service, recognizing that he is first a national of St. Kitts and Nevis. So Stanley, I want to record our appreciation to you, as I do to all the members that made up the committee. There was a representative from civil society, a representative from youth, a representative from ecclesiastical affairs, and a representative from the unions. Let's give all the members a special round of applause. The areas from which the honorees hail are a critical part of the socioeconomic fabric of St. Kitts and Nevis. They hail from education, our loving teachers who shape lives and so often devote time and attention and resources to guide us to become shining examples, always wanting us to be better than we assume that we can be, and even better than they themselves think that they are. I want to commend them for inspiring our children to the imperatives of learning. Learning to be, learning to become, learning to do, and learning to learn, which at times involve the unlearning of habits and traits which are unhelpful for our own development. So to all the honorees who hail from education, a special round of applause again to you. We have honorees who have come from religion. Bishop Penville, Dr. Calvin Hazel, to name just two. These are men who dominate the religious landscape. A powerful sermon, a church that is always on fire for God, a word that is quick and helpful, but importantly, it reflects the power of the church in our society and our acknowledgement that in all things we should give God the glory so that our country continues to be a blessed one. Again, we want to give a special round of applause to those who come from religion. We want to recognize the special role of the honoree from diplomacy and international governance. As a small island state, we have to meander into things that sometimes we always, at times, it would be better if we are left out of it. Left out of the argument, because in the end, we have nothing to gain, but only to lose by active engagement in some of these issues in the world. And we need personalities like the former ambassador, Erskine Edwards, to help us chart a policy prescription from which we can safely anchor the national policy of a small island state like St. Kitts and Nevis, and ensuring in all our engagement we are guided by domestic policy. I spent 7+ years as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I learned then there can be no effective foreign policy unless it is anchored in domestic policy. That is a critical lesson. There is no effective foreign policy unless it is anchored in domestic policy. Each nation state must identify its priorities, what it is it wants, what role it will play in the international arena, and let that guide its action in the international political marketplace. Or else we will be caught going hinder and yonder without any anchor. When we anchor our foreign policy in domestic policy, we anchor it in the interests of the people and residents of our beloved country, St. Kitts and Nevis. I want equally to hail those who hail from culture. Miko was identified. Nevis nice, St. Kitts and Nevis nice. But there have been so many exponents in the arts of culture, broad and limitless as it is, who have brought so much joy and pleasure and advice and social commentary and the development of a broader anchor for our people, that we commend them all. Equally, we commend those for their legendary contribution to sports. And as we think of sports and its potential, on top as it is, remember Kim Collins, one of our all-time greats, and what his achievements were for St. Kitts and Nevis, how he helped secure a secure footing for St. Kitts and Nevis in a highly competitive space. The smallness, the size is no limit. If the mind can conceive it, we all can achieve it. So we again hail our sporting legends and those who have made celebrated contribution in that particular field. Let's give them a special round of applause. I hail to and congratulate those like Anthony Evelyn, who are being recognized for their contribution to the physical and built environment of our country, their contribution to bringing order and beauty to our spatial and built environment. We have as a people to become much more conscious about space and of course time. And I have just a few minutes left, so I'm very conscious that this is a brief remarks. But we have to be conscious of these things. And persons who are involved in the physical and built environment, they bring these lessons to the fore. And we record our contribution to those who are now being recognized today. I want, of course, also to recognize our honorees who come from agriculture. And I adopt the Food and Agricultural Organization description of agriculture. It's not just crops, it is not just livestock, it is also about fisheries, and it is also about forestry. So it embodied food security and, of course, environmental sustainability. I want to hail them, like Mr. Merchant, with whom I work very closely, both as a little farmer and most importantly as Minister of Agriculture, in very many responsibilities that he executed on behalf of international organizations. Let's commend them, and in particular recognize the lady farmer, Arabella Nisbet, who has done so much in agriculture and who has made us proud. I say thank you for contributing to food security, and thank you for contributing to our environment. I believe and I feel that we are blessed by citizens and residents like you, who have led by example and who continue to inspire the generation after you to do the very best that they can be. So I thank all of you, congratulate all of you, and say to God be the glory. He has accorded us and provided us exemplars like you. Thank you all very, very much.